Hey y'all, I'm Savannah and this is Savannah Says. Today I'm here to talk about The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. And I feel like, as usually the case with these videos, I just find it more entertaining to talk about the reasons why I may not have enjoyed something, in case you are struggling to read it and like don't know why you're struggling because everybody likes it. And that is my experience with this book. Now, I like romance, and I know that I question if I enjoy romance regularly, both in real life and on this channel. And I especially question if I like contemporary romance, but like in my past, reading athletic romances have usually done me good. Like, they're not the best written thing in the world, but they're usually good enough that I get, like, it scratches the itch that I'm looking for. And that's what I was expecting with this. These books are really popular all over the internet. If you somehow have escaped that, they're all over TikTok. I mostly see them on YouTube, but I realize now that they are also on TikTok. And I was going to read the ice skating one from Luke Off with Love, because ice skating romances are hard to come by. It is what it is. So I was gonna read that one, but then I was reading like the reviews on Goodreads, and I intentionally go read the 1-star reviews because I want to know why the book sucks if someone doesn't like it. That way I can determine if like the reasons why they hate it or the reasons why I like it. And I just find that to be more informative. So I went to read the 1-star reviews, and people were saying this is the terrible slow burn because they kiss on the last page. And I was like, you know, as much as I like angst and as much as I like slow burn, that book is like at least 500 pages, and I was like, I can't be reading a 500-page romance if they're not going to kiss till the last page. Like, I know myself, I know my limits, that wasn't going to work for me. So the other three that I always see listed as like the top 3 Mariana Zapata are From Luke Off with Love, obviously, Culty, which is the soccer one, and then The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, which is the football one. So I was like, okay. I saw someone reading Culty and they kept saying how she was saying the word poop in the dialogue, and I was like, I can't handle that. So The Wall of Winnipeg and Me is what I chose. Got hot from drinking that coffee. All I knew going into this book was that like it, again, was a football romance and that it was a slow burn. That's literally all I knew. I did not look up anything. I wanted to just go into it and read it. And I was surprised in a bad way about the book that I read. And I'm just here to share with you my thoughts. This plot is going to be kind of scattered because it's like a day-by-day sort of plot, and I just can't summarize to save my life, so I'm sorry. I will be telling you every single thought that ran through my mind while reading this. So the premise of this book is based on the fact that it's fake dating. That's the main trope of the book, which already, when I realized that getting into it, I was like, that's kind of giving red flag. Like, I hate fake dating. That's like my least favorite trope in romance. Like, I think miscommunication would be the worst one for me, but I literally hate fake dating. Like, I don't think there's ever a reason as an adult that you should be having to fake date someone. Like, you either want to be with them or you don't. And if you just want to like have sex with this person who's also a consenting adult, I don't know why you would have to fake date to convince other people that you're wanting to be together. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So I don't like it. And this premise of this book is entirely set on fake dating. So the main character's name is Vanessa. She's 26. She's the personal assistant to this football player named Aiden. My confusion began here because Winnipeg is in Canada. Where in Canada? I don't know. It's in Canada. So I'm like, are they in Canada? Are they in America? Whatever. He's a football player. He's like well-known, famous, National League situation. So Vanessa just kind of is feeling burnt out in her job. She's not appreciated. She wants to go to where she's appreciated, so she quits. She's a graphic designer by trade, so she just wants to pursue that as her primary career and not be a personal assistant, which I understand. As a fellow artist, like, sometimes that's just what you want to do, and you just take shitty jobs on the side to get you to that place. But like, sometimes you just gotta quit the job you're in to pursue the one you really want, right? So she quits her job, and Aiden shows up at her house like 2 weeks later saying like, hey, I need your help. And she's like, well, what do you need my help with? Because as your assistant, I quit. So I have quit, rather. Like, I've already quit. So I can't help you with anything that your new assistant shouldn't be able to do for you. And he's like, I need your help securing a visa because my visa fell through. Like, I'm going to get deported. And the only way to secure this visa is if we get married. Now, already, it doesn't make sense to me because this is not 90 Day Fiance. I don't know why this man who's in a national league, which by the end of the book, I realized he was in the NFL, which makes even less sense to me because I'm like, if you're in the NFL and you're not an American citizen, which isn't a problem. I don't know of many NFL players that aren't citizens. I also just don't follow football, but I do know that there's a lot of hockey players that are obviously Canadian because Canada and hockey. So I'm like, if you are in a major sports league, I would assume in any country, but especially America, and you are a white Canadian man, there is no reason why your visa should be in jeopardy, why your visa should be under a struggle to be renewed. Like, there's no scenario that I can think of where that would ever happen, where you would have to beg your personal assistant to marry you to secure a visa, but you're a famous football player for the National Football League in America? It's not adding up. And that was the first thing for me that I just couldn't let go, because I was like, this entire book is built off something that doesn't fucking make sense. And the more they like bring up the fact that they're only doing this to get him a visa, the more I start to question like why she would write this when like at a bare minimum that concept does not make sense. So Vanessa's like, why the fuck am I gonna marry you? Like, I don't like you, you don't like me. I don't really know if she says that, but that's like the energy I get, that they don't like each other because he's closed off and not nice, which I'll address later. But essentially he's like, I will pay you, I think it's $150,000, and I will pay off your student loans, buy you a house. Like, I will provide for you monetarily if you do this for me, but you have to be married to me for 5 years. Again, with the visa, why are you needing to be married? And why are you needing to be married for 5 years? I don't, like, it doesn't make sense to me. And like, granted, I was listening to it on audiobook, and mostly because I didn't think that I was going to be able to force myself to read it once I realized it was fake dating. And because it used to be on KU and it's not anymore, and that's also the other reason. But I could have misunderstood this because I was listening to it, but I just don't know why that's the path you would need to take. So she agrees, whatever, and they get married. So then the rest of the book begins. She moves into his house with him, and he's got a roommate who's also on the team named Zach. And Vanessa and Zach have way more scenes together than Vanessa and Aiden do, which I was like, at this point, who's the love interest? Because she talks more to Zach than she does to Aiden. I was understanding. But this book really just goes like day by day of them getting to know each other, which to me is fine, but I don't consider that, let me not get carried away. They're getting to know each other, and that's fine and dandy. And there were just a couple of scenarios that happened that made me like begin to question, was this book slow burn? Was this book good? And these questions sort of just kind of bounced around in my mind until I finished it. The first being, there is no romantic discussion, thoughts. There's nothing signifying that it is a romance until 60% into the book. And to me, that doesn't make sense. Like, you're in Vanessa's mind, it's her POV primarily, and like once they get married and they're together all the time, she never once mentions that she thinks he's hot. She never once mentions that she's into him. She mentions that he's big because she literally refers to him as the Wall of Winnipeg, and that's the only way she refers to him. It's really fucking annoying. She's like, the Wall of Winnipeg is so large. The Wall of Winnipeg is so big. Like, I know that he's big because she mentions it all the time, but that's all that I know that she observes about him. Like, she does not mention anything about him besides that he's an asshole and that he's large. And so it's 60% of the way into the book, and suddenly she's like getting turned on by him because he's shirtless. It just happens like this. Like, it's so fast that it doesn't make sense to me. Like, there's no build up. Like, one day she hates him, and the next day she's like, oh my God, I'm so horny for this man. And I'm like, what? I wasn't believing that, and that's already a bad sign, because if I don't believe the romance in a romance book, then you've already lost me. But at that point, I was so far into it, I was like, I might as well just finish and see if, even though I got a slow start, if the book will get better, right? So there's no romantic dialogue at all on her behalf. Another thing that made me sort of question if I was enjoying the book is that Vanessa is 26 and she reads very, very young, which I know that 26 is young. I unfortunately am 30 years old, so I feel like I'm old. And I understand that in the grand scheme of life, like, that's not that old, and that's actually quite young. And like, I still feel in my behaviors and hobbies that I'm probably 22. 25. Look, I get it, but there were just things that she was doing that didn't make sense. Like, she's afraid of the dark, which I understand people have whatever they have, their fears, whatever, but I'm like, why are you, as a 26-year-old woman, afraid of the dark to the point where someone has to sleep with you to comfort you, like, in the dark? Like, it was very baby. There's like a Halloween scene and she's dressed up as a minion and she's like, oh, I've worn this costume 3 years in a row and the Wall of Winnipeg has no clue what a minion is. Like, I can't believe he doesn't know what I'm dressed up as. And I'm like, why are you dressing up as a minion when there's no children involved in the costume? Like, do adults like the Minion movie that much that they're dressing up in Halloween costumes as minions? Like, I've only ever seen minion outfits when there's babies involved or like little kids involved who like those movies. And I'm not saying that you can't enjoy children's movies, because I have quite a few children's movies that I enjoy and I know they're for kids and I still think they're good movies. But am I dressing up as them? No. Like, I enjoy Hotel Transylvania. Am I gonna dress up as people from Hotel Transylvania? I'm not. So I was just kind of confused that this book was giving like YA energy, but the main character is in her mid-20s and the love interest is in his 30s, which the vibe was off. The vibe is off. First, there's no romance at all, and now she's acting like a child. The vibes are off. So the main issue that I had with this, though, which is where all of my, I guess, anger resides, and I can't even really tell you the plot because, again, there really is no plot. There's really nothing, there's no big moments that happen that I'm like, these are plot beats. There's just like little things that happen that just make me not believe the concept of this book. And I've already addressed the visa situation, how that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that you as a professional athlete are struggling to secure a visa under threat of deportation. Like, you're on a well-known team, you're a well-known player, like anybody, even if you're not well-known, you're a professional, you're not getting deported for visa issues. Like, that's just not a thing that's going to happen. The second issue, obviously, that the main character is giving YA and she's an adult. This whole book was giving YA. Didn't like it. The third issue that I had primarily was like, even though I don't like fake dating, if you're gonna fake date, be good at it. Like, I guess it's not even fake dating really, because they're like actually legally married in the book, but like there was like a scene where Aiden gives Vanessa like a football jersey with his number on it and his name on it, and he's like, wear this to the game. And she's like, well, I don't want to go to the game, like I don't know why I would have to be there. And he's like, you have to be there because you're my wife. And I'm like, same. Like, I don't understand why she's acting like it's weird of her to go to his events when y'all are literally married. You're newly married on a whim. No one even knew you were together. And suddenly you don't want to go to his events, but you want people to believe that this marriage is real. Because if it's not real, it's illegal, according to them. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know how you can, I mean, I'm sure that is true. Like, you can't get married to give people visas like that. There are laws about that, I'm sure, but I don't understand how anybody would care enough in this situation to like persecute them for it. But she's just so bad at like pretending to give a fuck, which is also why I don't believe when she's suddenly into him, because it's like, he's giving you this jersey, you're confused as to like why you have to play the part that you signed up for to get your loans paid off. And like, which segues into my next point of how like the version of romance that's in this book is very much bare minimum human interactions. And that to me didn't sit right, because I'm like, I don't like when in romance concepts, I guess, as a woman who identifies as a woman, as a straight woman, I just don't like it when the woman is more into the man than he is her. Like, I'm not buying that conceptually. Like, we've all lived that life. We've all had a dude that we're way more into than he's into us. And it's embarrassing. And I was embarrassed for her, because reading the book, like with the jersey situation, he gives her this jersey after she acts like she doesn't want to go to the game or whatever. She acts like it's such a burden on her to pretend to be his wife. She's like, oh, well, I can't believe he was, like, in her mind, she's like, I can't believe he was thinking of me. Like, does this mean that he's into me? Does this mean that he's paying attention to me? And I'm like, this is like bare minimum behaviors. Like, the least he can do is give you a jersey with his name on it because you're his wife, right? Like, it's like the least he can do in these situations that have you feeling like he's really into you. There's like another scene where she's like, you don't know anything about me. And he's like, okay, ask me a question. And she's like, well, how old am I? And he's like, you're 26. And she's like, oh my God, like, how do you know these things about me? Like, how do you know all of these, whatever? How do you know so many things about me? And I'm like, you were literally his assistant for 2 years. So at the very least, I would assume that he has some kind of hand in picking out his assistant, even if he didn't give a fuck about you while you were his assistant. He should know how old you are. Like, this is like basic shit. Like, somebody knowing your birthday or knowing how old you are or knowing, like, I don't know, just basic stuff about you that you would just share with any random stranger does not, to me, indicate that someone's into you, does not indicate a romance, does not indicate that this is like a slow burn, getting to know each other. Like, y'all don't even talk. But you were his assistant, so he knows basic things about you. Like, I feel like that's not that deep of a thing. And maybe I'm just cynical, but like, to me, that I wasn't believing that as a reason to believe that he's into her. And it just like spiraled from there because like she's so into him that it's just embarrassing. And it's like schoolgirl crush, and he literally does not give a single fuck about her. Like, there are so many scenes where she's like, why would you ask me to marry you if you don't like people? Because his whole thing and what makes him an asshole is that he does not like sharing his personal life with people. He's very closed off. He's not interested in making friends. And I'm like, I don't know how that makes him an asshole, but whatever. So she's like, well, how is it that you've come to me for help if you don't even like me? And he's like, I like you well enough. And you're into him? And he doesn't even like you, and he's telling you that he's only into you like well enough. Like, you could be anybody. He does not care about you, girl. And then there's like another moment where after she's like full-blown thirsting for him all the time, they're like laying in bed or something, or they're watching a movie, but they're sitting close together, and like his shirt is off because he's a straight man who's buff. Their shirts are always off. And she's like, oh, well, are you a virgin? I don't even remember how the conversation got started, but she asked him if he's a virgin, and he's like, no, I'm not a virgin. I'm just not interested in sex. I'm not interested in women. I'm not interested in relationships. I'm not interested in any combination of those three things together. Like, I'm just not interested in pursuing romance. Which again makes me question, why are you into him? Like, he has told you so many times that he does not want to be in a relationship. He does not want to be bothered by women. I don't like women, but you're into him and thinking that he's thinking about you. Like, he is not thinking about you. He does not like women. He doesn't want to be bothered. And I don't understand how this is supposed to make me believe that they have chemistry when he's just told her that he's not into her, but she's still like really into him. Like, it's just so embarrassing. And I just feel like personally, I've lived that journey, and I will never go back. It's just, you're doing yourself a disservice by continuing to throw yourself at someone who has told you they don't like you. Like, you look dumb. And I felt like she just looked dumb the whole time. And honestly, I got tired of reading it, and I read it till the end, but like, they don't even kiss until the end. And I honestly skipped to the 98% mark just to see if they were kissing. They weren't. And apparently they have sex eventually. I just didn't care to see it. And I just really feel like whoever called this a slow burn was like very misinformed about what that phrase means. And I don't appreciate that all of her books are called slow burn when, again, to me, that's not what that phrase means. And I know this whole video has been chaotic, but there's really no plot, and I'm really just telling you what I didn't like about this book. And I just feel like there's so many levels to why I didn't like this. And I've already mentioned a few, obviously. Again, to recap, the visa doesn't make sense. The book reads like YA, but the main characters are adults. There's no romantic spark at all between either of these people. And when the spark does happen, it is just Vanessa's spark, nothing from Aiden. For the entire book, she's just really into him, and he does not say anything to her. They don't even talk. Like, I swear to God, they have maybe like 5-6 interactions in a 500-page book. She talks more to the roommate than she does him. And so that really kind of leads me to like what I think was the primary problem with this book. Like, romance not making sense aside, the fact that this book was only one POV and that POV was Vanessa, egregious to me. Like, you want me to believe that this is a two-sided slow burn romance when the male character doesn't even have a point of view chapter? Like, he don't even have a point of view paragraph. He don't got nothing. You don't know a single thing about this man. You don't know what he's thinking. You don't know how he feels. And I feel like in any romance situation, like, you at least need 2 points of views baseline. Like, if it's not a fantasy romance and a contemporary romance, you need to have 2 points of view, because if I don't know shit about the person who they're allegedly in love with, like, I don't care. And all you know is what she's telling you, and what she's telling you does not indicate to me that he's into her, and so I don't believe it. Why was there one point of view? Like, it honestly, do I even want to know about Aiden? Because he doesn't have anything to say. He doesn't talk to her. He doesn't like talking. So would it have mattered? Maybe not. But in the terms of like the romance, it would have mattered. So that's a major red flag to me. Another thing I didn't like, which I guess would be the fourth thing at this point, because yeah, fourth or fifth, whatever. This book was too long. There was so much filler, and none of it had anything to do with like building the romance, when this entire book is allegedly a fucking romance. Like, they have like these weird traumatic backstories that have nothing to do with any of the plot. Like, Vanessa was in foster care, which I know is a traumatic thing, and I know that there's a time and a place for that. This book was not it. She was in foster care. Her sister tried to run her over with a car and kill her. How that's relevant to the romance, it's not. Aiden only plays football because his dad used to beat him up, and that's why he didn't want to play hockey. But that's like the only time he ever fucking mentions that. So it's kind of like, why are you dropping these random unnecessary seeds of trauma to make me care about these characters, but you don't like go into it at all? You don't connect it at all to the point of this book. Like, nothing. There's nothing. And I just don't like, this book is not like badly written in the sense that like the grammar is bad, which, not that I even care about that, because I like plenty of books that people would say are badly written. Like, I don't care. I'm here to be entertained. But not only was it not badly written, it wasn't even entertaining. And it is badly written because the way this book is like formatted does not make any fucking sense if you're trying to convince me that it's a romance. So like, random trauma dumping. She's way too into him. One POV, egregious. And I think my main issue with this entire book, and at this point, all of her work, because I'll never read another one because now I'm just on a warpath, is that, what do people think slow burn means? I'll wait. What do people think slow burn means? Because I've already had this issue with the word smut and with the word spicy, which I don't like the word spicy. I think that word is, if someone's saying something is spicy, I feel like I already know what they're reading, and I can tell that they don't read fan fiction, have never read fan fiction, like, have never had a Wattpad era. You can just kind of tell that these people just have never read like sexually explicit fiction before if they're using that word. So that's my first issue, that spicy just means erotica, and people use that to base if a book is erotic or not. But it's like, there's plenty of erotica that you can read, whatever. That's a whole different tangent. But that's my first beef, is that this book is labeled as, has it been labeled as spicy? I don't even know. I heard this book was good though, and people say it's slow burn, and to me, slow burn means that there's angst. It means that there's like palpable sexual tension, sexual chemistry. Like, if I'm reading the book, I can tell that you guys are into each other, but for like XYZ reason, you can't be together. And then like, sometimes you might slip up and kiss or something, or sometimes you might get into situations where you're tempted, but you can't do it. And to me, that's what slow burn is, because it's like all of those little moments building up until the moment where you finally like do kiss or finally do get together. And I feel like I've been on this journey and the payoff is worth it because I've seen that you guys are into each other. This book is not a slow burn, it's just slow. Like, why do people think that slow burn means taking 99% of the book to kiss. That's not what slow burn means. Slow burn means that there's mutual tension between both characters, and that is what the burn is. That's what the burn part of slow burn means. Like, slowly for them to get together, but the tension is burning. Like, there's no fucking tension in this book. How is it a slow burn? And like, why are people saying that it's such a good slow burn when you don't even know that he's into her? All you know is that she's way too into him, and there's no like romantic anything. Like, it's literally just like domestic fluff, and not even good fluff, because the only reason it's domestic is because they live in the same house. Like, they don't talk to each other, so there's nothing there that's convincing me that this is a good like romantic pairing or romantic union. Like, it's bad. It's fucking bad. And I'm like, why are people calling this slow burn? Like, it really, honestly, if I'm being real with you, it pissed me off, because I was like, I really sat here and read this book because I've seen it everywhere, and everybody says it's so good and it's such a good slow burn, and it's like, I'm like, damn, I love angst, I love toxicity, like, I'm here for a good slow burn, but like, this was not it. And if you are like me and your definition of slow burn is what I just said, which is like angst, mutual tension, mutual pining, like, I know that you're both into each other and eventually you will get together. Doesn't have to be now, doesn't have to be like, you know, next chapter, but eventually you will get together, and the payoff will be worth it. If you don't even kiss until the last page of the book, that's not slow burn to me. That's like High School Musical, right? We're like, but actually it's not even like High School Musical, because at least in High School Musical, you know that Troy and Gabriella are like into each other, but they just can't be together because of the way their like friend groups are running their lives. Like, it's still obvious that they like each other, and that when they get around each other, there's like sparks and tension, but they just can't do it. And I like it, like, even at the, again, if Disney Channel is giving better slow burn than your book, it's trash. And I'm just like, I'm honestly kind of stunned and shocked into silence, because I don't really know what to say about this. Like, it was just not good. And again, like, if you've seen any of my videos, do I typically read what people will call like highbrow literature? No, I read to be entertained. So I really couldn't care less if the book is well written, if it's full of grammar errors. Like, I really don't care as long as I'm entertained while I'm reading it. But I wasn't even entertained. It was like forcing myself to read this book just to see how it ended, just to see if it was worth it. And it wasn't worth it. So joke's on me. 1 star, was not worth it. It was just bad. It was bad, and I immediately had to like cleanse my palate with literally anything else. So I didn't really tell you anything about the book besides why I didn't like it, but if you have read it and you feel the same way I do, let me know in the comments below. If you read it and you don't agree with me, also let me know, because I just don't understand like what about this is slow burn. I'm not getting it. Again, so many examples of good slow burn. Kate and Anthony in the 2nd season of Bridgerton. Troy and Gabriella from High School Musical. Like, literally, what else? Honestly, as much as I don't even really enjoy Bridgerton, like, I like Kate and Anthony. Daphne and Simon had tension, even though they weren't like my favorite couple. They had tension. Like, it was a slow burn because when they got together, their fake dating or whatever actually made fucking sense because they actually liked each other. Like, literally, there's so many examples of like better romantic stories that I don't know how this woman has gotten so popular writing. It's trash. It's trash. I said it. It's trash. I don't really care. If you like it, that's great. I like trash too, but just be able to like admit that it's trash. And that's what this book is. It's garbage. I will never read another one, obviously. And hopefully the next book that I talk about that's a romance is actually fucking good, because at this point, thinking back, even like the worst romances that I have read that I've talked about on this channel were better than this one, because at least something happened. And like, as much as I complain about hating books where there's no plot and then I just continue to be bamboozled into reading them, like, no plot where at least you think about having sex with the person who's supposed to be your romantic interest is better to me than no plot, no romantic, nothing, and then suddenly you're giving me 8th grade schoolgirl crush. Like, it was so bad, y'all. It was so bad. If you liked it, let me know in the comments below. If you didn't, Also, let me know, please tell me if you read a slow burn book that's actually good, fucking slow burn, and actually has romantic chemistry that's popular right now, because I feel like all the ones I'm reading are kind of giving me dud, and it's making me question if I enjoy romance, and I know that I do, so I don't know if my discernment is off. Like, what is the deal? Recommend me some good stuff below. That's all for now. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.